Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Land Use Committee of the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. It is December 14th, 6:10 p.m. Tonight we just have a couple of things. The first one is to consider comments regarding the connectivity plan, and this would be a proposed letter to the consultants to give some input at this early stage in their consideration of the connectivity plan. They are anticipating doing a public meeting sometime in January, and then there will be a second public meeting later on once they put together their draft. But they're doing a one for input in January. So I wanted to get the neighborhood council on record with some thoughts. This letter grew out of a couple of things. One was the comments that we actually submitted several years ago with regard to the PAIP. And so I went back to that and picked up the comments that we had that related to connectivity in that and included them here. And the second thing was the discussion we had at the joint committee meeting. Pat, you have a suggested change in here.
I do. I would put a comma after the word following in the introduction there. So I should include the following comma. And then I would add the phrase, to the extent not already included and analyzed in previous environmental documents.
Okay.
Does the committee think about that?
Except that, Pat, how do you analyze? How do you account for the fact they have to be updated because current conditions have changed since 2009?
Well, the thing about the 2009 EIR is that it's an envelope EIR and was to include expected maximum traffic pressures, timing and otherwise, and parking pressures and so forth for a 30-year period. So updated conditions, I don't know that there's sufficient there. And I think actually it's included in the phrase to the extent not previously considered in environmental documents, because I would make an argument that some change conditions were kind of contemplated. For example, there's been some things that have eliminated that actually make the 2009 EIR an over forecast, for example.
Okay. So are you suggesting just inserting the word not previously considered in the 2009 EIR?
Well, I would say not already considered in the 2009 EIR and other environmental documents, because there were a couple of updates to the 2009 EIR in 2011. I think was one, and then there was one after that too.
Right. Okay, so I've added that in here. The reason there's some yellow highlights is these are changes from what was in our agenda packet. The first one, the word include was just a word change. The second bullet about the transportation system actually combined a couple of bullets into one. And the other one that's highlighted, the relationships of the current public transportation system, including Dash and Metro, was not in that original letter. So that's an additional language. Other than that, this is the language that was that you received as a part of the agenda packet.
Just a technicality, Diane, but I think Pat said environmental documents.
Yeah, environmental documents, yes.
DAL.
Yeah.
Got it. Thanks. Any other things that you would like to see changed?
Can you scroll the page down a little bit?
Yep. So we talk about the transportation, we talk about parking, sidewalks, greenery, bicycle lanes, a footbridge at the end of 6th Street, that similar to the one proposed to connect Avalon Boulevard. That was something that came out of our joint committee meeting. to have asked them to look at the coastal trail access analysis. That's an amazing document that goes through and says, you know, you need to widen the sidewalk right here. And it's got a lot of very specific improvements to improve the ability to get to walk and to bicycle through the area. Go ahead.
How about the greening plan?
Yeah, that's
There
too. Then it talks about signage, consistent signage from the community to the waterfront and along the waterfront. Signage should include the coastal trail signage and signage to such points as historic downtown San Pedro, the Arts District of Warner Grand. Signage at the corner of 6th and Pacific, 7th and Pacific, and 22nd and Pacific to connect to the waterfront. Maybe it should also say Gaffey on those. Consideration should be given to graphics at the intersections. Then it talks about the greening plan. A exit to Harbor Boulevard from the north end of the parking lot that's along Harbor Boulevard at 22nd with a crosswalk, so you can get across Harbor Boulevard there. So when people are parked there, it's easy to get out of the lot, cross and access the other side of the street. Exploration of possible urban RV campground, storyboards, a welcome center with a map of San Pedro brochures and a rubber stamp for passports. Evidently, some people have little community passports they carry. They should look at something that had been proposed a long time ago, which was a 7th Street Pier and Overlook. Attention to linger spaces where folks can sit and enjoy the waterfront, take photos and have a snack or cup of coffee. Plan for doggy bags and water fountains. Creation of the adjacent area adjacent to the promenade in front of the Iowa for use for a recreational area. And then finally, a location to rent kayaks and sailboats. So those are some of the things that have come up in the past.
At the risk of being nitpicky, Diana, could the reference to the San Pedro Urban Greening Plan maybe include a preference for native plants that provide habitat to native wildlife that are better adapted to climate and soil conditions?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what review of the planting plan with a
Is anybody familiar enough?
with
a preference for native plants.
Is that already part of the greening plan? Is that one of the requirements?
They are part of the plan, but it also approves an assortment of other plants that really establish a preference.
with a preference for native plants. Was that the end of the sentence, or did you want to?
Well, I could elaborate on providing habitat and being better adapted to the climate and soils, but I don't want to make it too wordy. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Diana,
yes.
going back a bit, what would a footbridge at the foot of 6th Street look like? How would it operate? Would it be like the so-called Welcome to San Pedro Bridge on Gaffey?
The suggestion that was made was that it looks something like the Avalon, the foot of Avalon Bridge.
No, but I need to look at that if I'm gonna ask a good question then, but I'm just wondering about ADA requirements.
I would assume that the port did whatever they had to do for ADA with the foot of Avalon. It's a more gentle slope, I think, than what we have over Gaffey.
Okay,
More of a sloping one. I don't know if it's possible to do something like that, because I don't know that there's as much width there to do it, but that was the recommendation to look at.
okay, thank you.
Chuck,
Scroll down, please, to the recreation park or whatever.
the recreation one? Is that what you're asking about?
Yes,
It's a recreation facility, I think it was,
Yeah,
down by the,
yeah. Creation of a recreational area adjacent to the promenade in front of the Iowa for use by firefighters, cruise passengers.
Right there. What does that mean, used by firefighters?
Well, it's
For recreation?
it's right next to the firehouse, the fire station.
So they use it for recreation, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we were suggesting that it be used, that they could then do, they could use the courts along with the community, along with, it was a good chance to mix people from the community with the firefighters who are staying right
I wasn't sure if you meant to fight fires or to use for recreation.
there.
Okay, thank you. By the way, I'm sorry for being late. I was sick. I'm still sick.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Jason. Are you talking? If you're talking, I'm not hearing you.
But it's a nice Christmas tree.
Jason?
Please raise your hand if you can be heard.
Jason, raise your hand and let us know you hear us. Oh, he's shaking his head. 2 participants raised hands. Yeah, why? Jason?
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Ugh. All right. I wanted to know if you wanted to see a picture of the Avalon Bridge, the footbridge.
Did you want to see that, Dan?
Well, that would be great. Thank you, Jason.
Okay. If you want to let me share, I'll go ahead and show it.
You have sharing rights. So I need to stop sharing, right?
I think it'll just kick you out when I do it. Hang on.
Okay, well, you should already have sharing rights. There you go.
Oh,
Look at that.
it's better looking than the new bridge to Long Beach, that's for sure.
Looks like
That's a handsome piece of work. I suspect it's a little out of scale at the foot of 6th Street, given all the new construction there and the museum on the other side of the street. But it's a noble idea. Okay. That obviously, since it's basically flat at each end of the 6th Street idea, you'd have a lot longer ramp at the end. But anyway, this is very helpful, Jason. Thank you.
Mhm.
Linda Alexander. Panelist. I failed to take roll at the beginning, so I think I will back up and do that now. Chuck Hart,
Yes. Here.
Jason Herring,
Here.
Linda Alexander. Oh, she's here. She must be not got her mic on yet. Pat Nave.
Here.
Rock Ashfield, I anticipate will be here late. Dan Dixon
Here.
and Craig Goldfarb, who is at this point unexcused. And myself. Okay. So, hi, Linda. We were just discussing.
Yeah, no, I've been on for a little while, yeah.
Oh, you have been. So you heard our discussion.
Yeah, I was looking at the body of the letter, which seems very ambitious, but I don't know who it's directed to or why.
Oh, it's directed to the consultants working on the connectivity plan. For things for them to look at as they're doing the connectivity plan.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm
Any
like,
Any other suggested changes? Alan, is your hand up to?
Yeah, I just put it up. I just wanted to be sure the very first paragraph with a bullet point, it looked to me like it had been wordsmithed or edited and all the parts didn't fit together.
Right.
Oh, the very first one, there shouldn't be a bullet there. But one thing,
Okay.
you talk about the one that says the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council.
Yeah, I can't see it now, but the first line didn't seem to connect with the second line. And then there were 3 dangling words at the bottom that had a different alignment.
There's some
Yeah.
grammatical issues there.
Yeah, the alignment was a problem. The Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council is pleased that work has begun on the, oh, you're right. Yeah, there's something missing there. Thank you. I'll find, it's something to the effect that the work has begun on the connectivity plan.
I know anytime you work on moving blocks of text around, stuff like that often gets left behind.
Well, I'm sure glad you saw it. Let's see if I can put it back up here. And then unless there's any, oh, Pat, you have another comment?
I did. It's a follow-up to something that Hawk raised about the bridge. Except I know these planning people have what they call a 4.5-minute rule. And that is that people won't go someplace that they can't get to in 4.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I want to mention 4.5 minutes necessarily, but I certainly would like to see all of their planning and their access things. And they really do need access. There are some real access issues there to the waterfront, particularly for pedestrians. And I just wonder if it would be helpful to have something in here about paying attention to access criteria, planning access criteria, so that we don't end up with the waterfront being an island that only cars can get to. I don't have any language to suggest.
Yeah, that was part of the point of the fact that the connection should include by foot, bicycle and a transportation system on its own right of way.
Okay, yeah, that's probably,
Well, that's kind of general. It doesn't necessarily mention that right of way should include a path to downtown.
right.
The whole sentence, the whole paragraph there talks about the access connecting the community to the waterfront and the waterfront to the community, and the assets and venues along the waterfront to each other. It
Yeah.
starts off with the community, and then it talks about the connections being by foot, bicycle, and the transportation system on its own right of way. But if you want to make some changes, just tell me what and where.
I don't have anything to suggest that's better than that, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
I mean, the
Just-
footprint is an attempt to, address some of that, right? But so like a path that is not inhibited by traffic considerations between downtown and the waterfront.
I like that.
So the connectivity plan should include a vision for a path between downtown and the waterfront, not inhibited by traffic, by automobile traffic.
How about paths from the community, not just downtown? Well, actually, what you're really getting at there, right, is the whole idea of the bridge.
Or some other, I don't know what else you would do, but how else to get people to cross that rather messy intersection and road.
Right, but I'm thinking that there's to put it as a lead in to the spot where we talk about a bridge.
That's fine, if you want to organize it that way.
Plan should
Include a vision for, what do we say, a right of way,
a pathway
pathway,
for pedestrians,
An access way, how about that?
and access should include vision for access
Connectivity.
for pedestrians from,
or between downtown and the waterfront,
Yeah,
not inhibited by automobile traffic. Consider a footbridge, consideration to be given.
then I just say consideration should be given to it, because that then fits in with what you said. How's that? Does that do it, Jason?
Yeah, I'm gonna read through it myself. One should include a vision for access.
Diana, back up at the end of the first paragraph again. It still ends with expectations with you unconnected with anything else.
Woo!
This-
Okay. Boy.
So it's indented, it matches the indentation, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
I think you just eliminate it, couldn't you?
I think that, no, that middle thing doesn't belong there. That's the problem. There's a sentence that doesn't belong there. Let's move that down.
And that diagonal crosswalk thing is a bullet point, isn't it?
Yeah, that belongs down below. Trying to figure out where to put it. Right.
By the footbridge, perhaps.
Yeah. Paste. And then the sentence up above had to do with, we look forward to, we wanted to share with you. Then we wanted to share.
With you, our expectations.
To take. To share some of our expectations with you.
Right.
Thank you, because I might have just not gone back and reread that. Chuck,
Yes, Diana. Back to the firefighters.
Those firefighters.
back to the firefighters.
Yeah, I think it'd be, I mean, if I was confused with it, no one else can. Maybe we should say house firefighters at station water
Yeah,
or something like that. Is up replacing, it wasn't clear to me there's a fire station there.
community and the,
Firefighters is house at station, whatever.
yeah. Pat, do you know that station number?
I think it's 48. I think it's 48. Basically, what we're talking about is taking down the wall and expanding the court so that everybody can use it. Firemen don't really use it. They're busy watching TV and in their off time. I've never seen them out there playing basketball.
Does that do it for you, Chuck? And the firefighters house nearby?
Yeah, I think it's important to say that that's someplace they and their families can go for recreate with the ones that are housed there, you know?
Yeah,
I just think it needs a little clarity.
It'd be a great tool for the fire department to mix with some of the kids from the projects there. They can see the firemen or firefighters or regular people and stuff like that.
Just lounging around watching TV.
Well, I think the firefighters are more likely to come out and play with some of the kids that are out there.
Dan?
I actually think that recreation component is one of the more doable and positive things in this whole letter. I wanted to ask about these consultants there. Are they working for the port? This has probably
Yes.
been reviewed in the past.
They're working for the port. That was the PAIP money.
Yeah.
$500,000 to hire these consultants to develop this plan.
Are they under any obligation to consider any of our suggestions or to
Well,
incorporate them into their final report?
they have, yes and no. They're obligated to go out and get community input. But, you know, getting input and giving real consideration to that are two different things. We will have another opportunity. We'll have more opportunities to respond if they haven't considered our suggestions and we think they're important. We will have the opportunity to make that input. And at that time, we'll probably want to make that input not only to them, but to the council office and the Board of Harbor Commissioners.
Right.
This is like a
This needs-
preliminary.
This needs to get beyond the cloistered halls of the high-priced consultants.
Anything else?
Did you mention any of the connectivity between the Wilmington waterfront that, in a method other than just by water? Does that mention somewhere?
I think it, let me just go make sure. It didn't get accidentally
I didn't see it.
taken out.
I mean,
Yeah, the second, the highlighted paragraph
okay. So
connecting to the Wilmington Waterfront Park. using a dedicated right of way?
Yeah.
I think that was your language, actually. Anything else?
Well, let's see what it'll have, but they're gonna connect it, let's see. Help move, who's connected. The public transit on a motorized transit system, that could still be defined as a boat. You might want to put on land. The wording still is open to, oh, it could be a boat.
Just put the words land-based in there.
Yeah, a end base. There you go. Okay. Anything else? Does someone want to make a motion to approve this?
You thought this was gonna be easy.
I'll move. I'll make a motion.
Second,
Who was that Jason? Who
Jason.
seconded?
Jason seconds.
No, I want input. I'm not, I think it was good input. Okay, so we will vote on the motion. Chuck Hart,
Yes,
Jason Herring,
Yes,
Linda Alexander,
Yes,
Pat Nave,
Yes,
Rock is not here yet. Dan Dixon,
Yes,
Craig Goldfarb is not here, and Diana votes yes, so it's unanimous, it passes. Thank you all. We'll forward that to the board and then we'll send that off to the consultants.
oh, Rock
lot of
is
good
in
work.
attendees.
What?
Diana, Rock is in attendees.
Oh, great. Rock, did you want to vote? Can you get him moved over?
I promoted him.
Okay.
coming in at the end, Diana, that's a lot of good work in there.
I vote aye.
Okay, Rock. Great. Now, if I save this, I should be able to save those changes. Hopefully I did that right. Okay, then I'm going to go to the next one, which is the letter regarding the beautification of Pacific Avenue. And there it is here. Now, how did I get it over here? Here. Screen sharing. Oh, do you see it?
Yes,
Oh, good.
Just for the record, I'm not trying to hide. I don't know why my camera doesn't work. Just,
Oh, but you can see us?
yep.
comb your hair, Rock, and maybe it'll.
Yes.
So at the last joint committee meeting, we talked about doing some kind of a letter regarding beautification of Pacific Avenue. And Javier and Central Neighborhood Council put together a letter. I made a few changes, primarily just structural changes to it. So this is here for our consideration. That we recognize that Pacific is an important link in the flow of traffic. We want to work with, it's directed to the council office. Want to work with them as well as other groups to develop and implement a beautification plan for the street. And we've identified the following as important elements. The better signage really goes along with the other in terms of connectivity. The provision of consistent level of street lighting and the use of historic light fixtures in the downtown area. Consistent street enhancements such as covered bus stops, trash cans and street lights. Additional trees. Repair and maintenance of streets and sidewalks. Promotion of historic preservation and adaptive reuse of existing structures. Some kind of a facade restoration program for the commercial and residential users along the street. And a consistent signage program for businesses. And then asking the council office if they would assign a staff person to work with us in developing such a plan and help, should probably say help to identify potential resources for its implementation. So that is the draft for comments. Pat Nave.
There's been a decades-old argument about what the port can pay for and what the port cannot pay for.
Mhm.
I noticed several items in here that I think qualify and should be something that the port should participate in. So I am going to suggest that this is a letter that goes not only to McCosker, but maybe to the president of the board of harbor commissioners and maybe to the mayor. And then identify, with a short paragraph that's saying, to the extent that that some of these items will enhance visitor access to the waterfront, then the port should be involved. And I'm looking at things like number 2, for example, and number 4 and number 5.
Anything to do with signage, certainly.
Yeah, and the port has actually done some things like that. There's some signage in Wilmington, for example, that the port has contributed to, where event notifications are put up on signage, even though the majority of the stuff goes for Wilmington events, but port events also go up on it.
So do it, add up to a second letter, because we need to have a few tweaking to make it appropriate for the Board of Harbor Commissioners, including the fact that it would enhance visitor access to the waterfront. So approving 2 letters, if we do it, one aimed at the council office and the second one with similar content to the Board of Harbor Commissioners.
I'm going to argue that they should be in one letter for 2 reasons. One is that I think we got to start cultivating and educating the new Board of Harbor Commissioners and the new councilmen to work together on things and get this concept in their minds that there's some things that the port can pay for that are outside the harbor district legally, and that they should do it because it helps them as well as the town.
I completely agree with Pat. One letter, you can asterisk the ones that are pertinent to the port and put in a paragraph, as you say, Diana, identifying those items as being relevant to the port. But if the biggest money generator in the district and the newly elected council member can get together on some of these things, it might take a year or 2 off some of the approvals of some of these things. I think it's good.
I would, can I suggest some language?
You suggest what, Pat?
I have some language to suggest.
Oh, some language to suggest? Sure, I'll stop up,
At the end of the first sentence, after the word visitors,
yes,
as well as visitors to the port and to the downtown area.
okay.
And then after the word office in the next sentence,
Mm-hmm.
your office, comma, the port. And yes, and then the rest of it, we'll like that.
So one of the groups that has money for some of this as well is the bid, but maybe we should send it to the bid as well.
Okay, so name them by the port, comma, the bid, or the P bid.
Yeah, I would think we might have better luck with the bid than some of these other entities. They have not done much of anything on Pacific, and yet those landlords pay into that assessment.
So we will send this letter to all of those groups.
I've got some more suggestions. My hand is still up if I can make some more suggestions.
Say that again?
My hand is up if I can make some more suggestions for
Yes.
language. In number 1, or something that would reflect what's going on in Wilmington, where they actually have a sign that advertises port events. So better signage along Pacific Avenue. Stick after Avenue, advertising after the word Avenue. Don't take it out, but after that, better signage along Pacific Avenue, advertising port events. port and other events. And to connect other parts of town, such as downtown, so on. That would be one. And then after, in number 2, our downtown, put a comma after area. And add the phrase, a downtown area consistent with lighting, visitor, what's the right word? Visitor attracting or visitor. I mean, it's even in the Tideland grant that you're talking about visitor something, attracting visitors to the waterfront. So with lighting, visitor,
with enhanced visitor experience.
yeah, consistent with
There we go.
how about just with visitor attracting lighting in the port?
Visitors and moths, yes.
Still saying consistent with,
Visitor attracting lighting in the port, yeah. Capital P, capital P port,
something port, I missed the word.
capital P,
Oh, okay.
capitalized port.
Make them feel important.
Well, it's come to symbolize the port as a legal entity.
Right.
Rather than an adjective.
Pat, I'm wondering if in number 1, on that note, you say the downtown, the harbor, should that be harbor/port, or are the words interchangeable in this case in number 1?
Or you can just put the port in there, just put capital P port in there instead of harbor.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Good one.
Anything else, Pat?
Well, I don't know if on 5 is if you want to give them a little dig, because the Board of Northwest has already acted on this, on repair and maintenance of streets and sidewalks, including streets damaged by port.
Now, this is specific to Pacific Avenue though, Pat.
Huh?
This is specific to Pacific Avenue,
That's okay. Big trucks go down that street too,
including places that were, okay.
including streets impacted by port traffic. About impacted by port traffic.
Yeah.
Port related traffic. Capital P port.
I think Disneyland has to pay Anaheim a fee every year for wear and tear on city streets, not just freeways and
Yeah. The
park
port in the
access.
past, port in the past has copped up. I remember one in particular was a $6 million payment to the city to repair streets impacted by port trucks. But then they turn around and say they can't pay for anything outside the harbor district, which is a geographic boundary. It's insane. There's even an attorney general opinion saying they can pay for it and should pay for it. Capital P port, Diana.
Anything else, Pat?
Capital P port.
What?
Capital
Okay.
P port. Where your cursor is, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Chuck.
Yeah, just a word of caution about signs. We're trying to take down signs, electronic signs especially. And now we're promoting signs. So just a word of caution there, that's all.
Good point. Maybe we need to talk about directional signs or wayfinding signs.
Wayfinding signs.
Yeah, that's what the port actually, maybe 40 years ago, had a whole program of kind of standardizing signs. And you still see some of them around in the port, and they had them all over the place.
I do worry a little about what you mean by a sign on Pacific Avenue to advertise port and area events. I have no idea what's in Wilmington, so I don't know what you're talking about, Pat.
There's
That-
a.
That one is the one that, when I hear Chuck, that's the one I go to and say, what kind of a sign is really acceptable there and what kind of sign is too much?
There's a little park on Avalon about 5 or 6 blocks up from Ferry Bridges, maybe a little further up. And it's a digital sign and you can, you can put your own message on there. And it was actually paid for out of China shipping funds and justified as an expenditure of port funds off of the harbor district because it was going to advertise port related events in addition to community events.
Okay, any other changes that people want to make to the letter?
If I may put in another plug for in number 4 for a preference for native trees like sycamores or Catalina cherries that are native to our area and provide habitat. Several of you were at Tim McCarska's inauguration or swearing in at Wilmington Waterfront Park, and you may have noticed they've got scores of sycamores along the sidewalk there for hundreds of yards, and others on the other side of the park, and they look real nice.
Okay, anything else? Pat, your hand's still up.
Oh, put it down.
Put it down.
Yeah, lower hand, I did it.
Okay. Dan?
Trees that provide habitat for, is that a period?
For native wildlife.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When I hear about sycamores, I dream about moonlight on the Wabash.
Are you gonna start singing?
I'll spare you that.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
In fact, you're gonna say, would anybody like to sing?
Well, yeah.
We can
Rock,
make,
you wanna sing for us?
Rock has to sing. I'll make that motion.
With the name
I'll
of,
second it.
The Texas A&M fight song, I want to hear that.
Saw varsity's horns off.
does anyone want to make a motion?
I thought he just did.
The motion was for you to sing.
Jason thought he made the motion.
Jason, what was your motion?
For Rock to sing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did already. Let's take a vote.
Does anyone else want to make a motion?
Uh-oh.
Pat moves.
I'll make a motion to forward this letter.
Linda's gonna make the motion. Who's
And I'll
gonna,
second it.
who's, oh, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? No.
You got
No,
that this is going to the port too, right? I
The
think
what?
This letter is going to the port too, right?
yes,
Okay.
no. It'll go to the port, the bid and the chamber now. Chuck Hart,
Yes,
Jason,
Yes.
Linda Alexander,
Yes,
Pat Nave,
Aye.
Rock Ashfield,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes,
and I will vote yes, so motion carried unanimously.
what was the list of people it's going to again?
The port, the chamber, the council office, and the bid.
Good, thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda was a Peck Park update. I think, Jason, did you have something you wanted to say under that?
I mean, I didn't go on the walk, but I mean, I can just give the update after the storms. There was significant damage to the walking trails, mostly due to high volumes of water running down the trails and not running into the actual canyon and the stream because we don't have sufficient working water diverters. We've been talking about this for, I don't know, 8 years, maybe. So maybe someday we'll get that before we just have a second stream next to the first one. But yeah, there's significant damage, and right now there's parts of the trail where it's a real ankle twister if you're not careful.
So the other thing that's happened is there's been a group, kind of an informal group called Friends of the Peck Park Canyon formed. They're going to meet tomorrow at 4 o'clock up at Peck Park. And out of that, the first thing that's come is there's a walk now being led on the third Wednesday of every month at 9 a.m., meeting in the lower parking lot. So the next one is December 21st. My plan is to go on that walk and take the pictures to send back to pictures of the damage that you're talking about, Jason, unless you have pictures you want to send in the meantime.
Oh, I could easily, I'm there almost every day, so I could take pictures.
Yeah, if you send the pictures, we will get them to the head of the area recreation and parks person.
Okay,
And Alan Franz is participating in this with the Friends of Peck Park. The gal that's leading the hikes is a big Sierra Club person. Alan, you want to say anything about it?
Well, Mary Forgione is the name of the person leading the walks. And it is a community resource, which, as Jason had noted, is less appealing, less attractive, in part because the trails have not been consistently maintained. And there is some interest in the Friends group to beautify the park, to increase plantings and wildflowers and things like that. So if people are interested, come on down.
Okay, the next item is updates on other items of interest to the committee. And I think we've got three things and not a whole lot of updates on any of them. The Target, the marketplace at Target, they still have not scheduled it for the zoning hearing. And I don't know what's delayed it. I think there's probably some negotiations going on. Don't know. The Starbucks that was proposed on Western, Starbucks is actually still negotiating with the property owner there. And until they finish those negotiations, they won't start their traffic study. And
Where's that, Diane?
on Western, by the Chase Bank,
US Bank.
The Bank of America?
US Bank. US Bank. Not the Bank of America, no, it's down farther, by the US Bank, where it used to be. Where Coco's was, somebody help me out here.
The US Bank branch, the empty building there will be raised and replaced with a Starbucks.
Where Starbucks already is.
Yes.
That will be closed. That's
Okay.
in the other building there.
In
Yeah,
front of Albertsons, is that the one?
Yes, the Albertsons parking lot.
but they,
Will they keep the high schoolers out?
yeah, so they will, once
You
they,
can't go there at 3 o'clock. You just can't.
yeah. Once they finish their negotiations, then they'll do their traffic study, which they told me will take a couple months. So at that point, then we'll want to look at it again and figure out if we want to recommend a position. And then the only other thing was that the storage on Miraflores, that proposed storage did get approved by the zoning commissioner. It's unclear to me what's going to happen with the trees, and I'm going to take that up with our new council member because
Good.
we want to try to save those trees. And it's the problem with it is the way the city is interpreting the CPIO, which is just stupid. Because the CPIO is requiring the developer to put in trees, but in order to have space to put in the trees, he has to take out the existing trees that are actually on city property. It's, yeah, so.
I would
Makes
like to
perfect
express a humble hope that our new and very knowledgeable council member will be of good cheer in terms of looking at some of these idiotic problems that we face all the time and getting around it somehow.
Yeah.
Some way. There's got to be a way.
I'm anxious for him to get his planning staff on board so we can start talking.
Exactly. And may I say on other Starbucks related news, there's a new Starbucks being built at Rolling Hills Plaza on Pacific Coast Highway, just south of Crenshaw, or is it east? South, I think. It's near the Trader Joe's there. And some of the business people in that strip there between Trader Joe's and the new Starbucks are terribly concerned about the drive-through aspect of it. It's on Pacific Coast Highway. It's at the end of a curve on Pacific Coast Highway. And they have two almost day-long rush hours along that whole stretch of PCH. So they're very nervous about it. And it's being built, it'll probably be done in a few months. And if the one on Western hasn't been decided by then, we can take a look at the effect
Yeah,
on Rolling Hills Plaza.
absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Okay, any other updates?
By the way, I don't understand that phenomenon of sitting in your car waiting for a $5 coffee. I just don't get it.
Okay, any public comment on non-agenda items? All right,
Yeah. I got one.
Chuck,
Is that me?
yes.
Yeah, thank you. The Greenbelt Park that we were so great in getting, the trees are dying. I counted at least 30 trees that were planted on that park that are dying or in need of almost dying. I wrote a letter to the port over a month ago, got no response. So I think it's time, since it's related to our wonderful park that we promoted, we being the neighborhood council. And if they're going to start phase 2 of that, I'm thinking maybe we can get them to connect the two and connect the tree, correct the tree problem they're refusing to take care of. I talked to Aki. I said, maybe they're not being watered properly. Maybe, he said, no, we think they're disease. This is based on a 3-month ago letter I wrote. And anyway, so I said in my letter, well, maybe it's leaking pipelines underneath those trees. We should check that too. Anyway, I've got no cooperation from the port. I think it's time for us to consider getting involved, us being a neighborhood council. See if we can get something taken care of in connection with phase 2, you know?
Okay, you want to draft a letter for us?
Say it again.
You want
Okay.
to draft a letter for us to consider?
I can't understand. I'm very sorry.
She wants you to write a draft letter.
Oh,
We got to put it on the agenda before we can discuss it. So for next.
yeah. I will write a letter. You'll get a lot of corrections for, I'm sure.
That's
For me,
okay.
I'm-
I'd be happy to help you write it, Chuck.
All right, good.
'Cause
And if you can do it in the next 10 days, we'll put it on the agenda for the 28th of December for the joint committee.
Okay, I guess a lot of issues going on, but I will, yeah, I'll make that my goal.
And Pat will help you. Okay,
And the Issues Committee meets on the 27th, I believe. And if we have a letter by then, maybe it can come out of 2 committees. To double the firepower
okay.
Mm-hmm.
of our persuasiveness.
Pat,
Yes, my issue is the DFSP. I bitched about it last night or 2 nights ago at the board meeting. I really am concerned that the Navy is going to come up with some use for the Defense Fuel Supply Point property that's not going to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The property is just too good for somebody to pass up to use it for something that's not good for us, like a container storage facility with lots of, a 24-hour night lit thing like they were proposing for John Gibson Boulevard. But the parcel is 20 times bigger, and the potential is really there. I really would like to see Northwest take a position to saying, look, there's some uses that could be there that are just not going to be compatible with the neighborhood. There's some uses, please consider these uses. And I don't know what those are. Rock probably has got a better idea of what's feasible and what's not than anybody else here. But things like maybe some shopping opportunities, big box stores like a Target or Home Depot or something like that on that parcel that would draw people to it, or maybe some housing. Or maybe we should be advocating for them to actually surplus it rather than just lease it and keep it in their hands and lease it out for something like container storage or a fresh transfer station or something like that. And because it's going to impact the Bobby Soxers as well as the police shooting range too, as well as, some of the other things like Blue Butterfly Range and the like.
I'm sorry, where is this?
Defense Fuel Supply Point is halfway up Gaffey to 5 Points past Home Depot. It's the old Defense Fuel Supply Point.
Right.
It's the big vacant area. It's like 318 acres. It's really big parcel in there. Excuse me. And they've shut in 99% of the, or practically all of the underground tanks have been filled with foam slurry mix and so forth. They're not usable, but the Navy is reluctant to surplus the property completely and sell it. So now they want to lease it and understand. Dan knows the most about this than anybody, and they're looking at doing the environmental on it. But first of all, they want to make their decisions on who to lease it to, and then say that they want to do the environmental. Well, that's bass backwards. You don't do it that way. But anyhow, that's what they are proposing to do. My fear is that they're going to come up with a use for that facility that is not compatible with our neighborhood. And we need to let them know, hey, when you make your decisions out here, keep in mind what the neighborhood is. And here's some of the uses we'd like to see and some of the uses we definitely don't want to see. We don't want to see, for example, something that's going to have us having trucks in and out of there all night long and coming out on Gaffey north and south bound. It's already becoming a heavily used artery. Something like that. I don't pretend to know what's good for the area, but I can come up with some ideas of what's not going to be good.
So maybe you can come up with a beginning of a draft letter, Pat, that we can circulate and then get.
And
in.
actually, based on Pat's timely comments at the meeting the other night, this item will be number 1 on our issues committee agenda on the 27th. And it's exactly the kind of conversation we need to have. So, Pat, I'm going to be writing something and I would appreciate your input.
Happy to do it. And see if I can get Rock to contribute too, because he knows. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can't emphasize to our federal government or any of its departments enough that it is they who are insisting we uncouple ourselves from a petrochemical future. And so to use this for fuel transfer or use the pipelines or anything involved in manufacturing of chemical-based products just does not seem appropriate, especially in this area, which is on the other side of the street, 100% devoted to that industry.
Yeah, they're pretty close to the homes too that they built up there now.
Again, yes, the homes that were there before those tanks were put in, we're told. So exactly, that kind of letter is what I'm thinking.
Hey, I'm still waiting for the Costco to come down here, so.
Yeah, if I could jump in,
Please.
since it's federal land, it might be good to copy the local representatives.
Yes.
And I know from White Point, when that was made into a park, the federal government, the Department of Defense has a priority list of what lands can be used for. So for example, at White Point, that was deeded to the city with only certain approved uses. And the same is true for what's now the City Hall site in Rancho Palos Verdes. The Department of Defense specified certain approved uses and barred certain others, which the city has marginally violated. But at any rate,
Congresswoman, sorry.
Congresswoman Barragan, and does she have the whole, is it all in her district?
No. unless the redistricting plan has actually been completed and we've been transferred over, Northwest San Pedro is in Ted Lieu's district.
Okay,
No,
well,
no, we're
Does that
now,
not change?
We're
It's
now
changed.
Barragan.
we're in the
Okay, so we're in Barragan's district. Good.
but Barragan has some involvement in military committees, I believe. So
Well, is
You might have-
DFSP in Barragan's area? Maybe they separated it out at the houses or something, and we need to check that. I think it's a good point. And I don't,
Well-
I'm not above sending it to people who are, not in the area, but close by too.
If we are now in the newly drawn map area, the entirety of San Pedro is in Barragan's district, and we are rid of the laissez-faire relationship with Ted Lieu, which is fine with me. So good. Let's get her involved. Thank you.
Chuck.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait,
My understanding-
let me say something. We really don't want to be having a discussion of the DFSP. That's going to be at the meeting of the issues committee. So this is the time to bring anything else to our attention.
Thank you. I apologize for doing that. Thanks.
Are we back to me?
Yes,
Thank you. Dan, I thought I understood that the pumping station had to remain to supply the facility over the Long Beach support. Is that correct?
No,
No?
They separated it out on purpose.
Yes,
so they-
I know, but they separated out so they could keep supplying to the pumping station. The oil comes from all over now.
Yeah, it
And then
was,
goes across the street to the pumping station that feeds the island, the terminal on the island.
I
So
think that-
then those pipes are going to remain, as far as I've heard.
I think they closed those off and it's just fed now by the refineries, supposedly, but we
I
can
don't
check
think
that.
so.
But we don't
Well,
want
they-
to argue
Dan
over.
has the information on it.
we'll be looking into that. It's a good
Anyway.
point, Chuck.
Anyway, that's one point. And, but I'm for saying all the rest of the property that's open space, that's what we should be promoting. We need open space, we need nature, we need something like, why suggest something instead of open space? I don't get it.
I
That's my
second.
point.
Yeah, it's just, we really are not, this is not an item for discussion for tonight. This is an item for discussion at the next meeting when it's on the agenda, or at the issues committee when it's on the agenda. So I'd like to now move on to anything else anyone wants to say under public comment.
Hand raised.
What, Pat?
My hand is raised.
Okay, what?
There's a question. It's for, oh, there he is, Rock. Hey, Rock, when is your next get together down at Palm?
Last Thursday, January 26th, we have West Harbor, Jericho coming in with all their new marketing stuff. I don't think we're gonna do a first Thursday for January. It's usually pretty slow.
You mean it, not one in December?
We already did it.
Oh,
There's not a last Thursday for December, no.
Okay, so the next one is when?
January 26th.
Well, the reason I'm asking, it's a follow-up. This is not a discussion of the item, Madam Chair, but it's we're implementing this to kind of forward the ball here a little bit. Some point, probably, Rock, I'd like to sit down with you with like Dan's draft letter or something like that.
Anytime you want to visit the office and do something, we're open to all that.
Well, I'm really concerned about, what's going on. I don't want to suggest something to the committee that's just infeasible in real life economics, real estate economics. So,
Okay. Because, we play in voodoo real estate economics half the time.
I know you guys are pretty accurate, so.
I don't know if everyone knows what Pat was referring to when he was asking Rock about his fourth Thursdays. Rock, do you want to tell everyone what the fourth Thursday is?
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday.
So everybody knows about first Thursday. You know, we have the art walk and street fair and the whole thing, and we always have an open house. And the sign is up. If you haven't seen the sign, lights up at 5, but we've created last Thursday, which means that every last Thursday of the month, except for November, December, we will be having a development update about what's going on around town. So this started in September, and we had Mike Galvin in, talk about not only our waterfront, but Wilmington, and we had all sorts of people in there. It just wasn't realtors, and they got to see a lot. The feedback was, we did this at the other office. It's real. It's happening. It's like, yes, it is. And then in October, we had Alex Valente from the Grinder Project and the Ponte Vista home builder. And that was an interesting juxtaposition. So in January, I had reached out to Alan. He said, I'll do anything after the groundbreaking. And he told me at the Grinder, says, we're going to be your first one. You'll be the first one to see all the new marketing material. So everybody's invited. As long as you don't talk about, never mind, I'm not even going to say.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Open space,
What?
open space.
Open space, open space, that's the comment, okay. Seeing no other public comment, I wish everyone a happy
I make a
holiday.
motion to,
What?
make a motion to adjourn the meeting with a happy holiday.
We'll see you Friday.
Friday. Oh, the mixer?
Yeah.
I got a kid graduating from Long Beach State. with his
Priorities,
senior
Linda.
day.
Priorities.
Anyway, so happy holidays to everyone. We do have a joint committee meeting on the 28th of December. Whether or not we have a January meeting for Northwest will probably depend on partly what happens with Dan and his committee, if we need to do something, or if any of these 3 projects that we're tracking has anything that requires us to meet. Otherwise, I'll cancel the meeting. So happy holidays. Bye.
You know.
See you Friday.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Night.
Happy holidays and thank you all for your work on the committee.
And thanks for all the input.
Open space.
Open space. Open
Go
space.
dream
agree.
about the moonlight on the Wabash.
Sing it.
Bye.
Thank you.